Happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to another edition of Grace and Gossip here with your girl, Christal XO. I hope you guys are having off to a great week. We had a good time this weekend. Yesterday, I actually did a review on Heart and Hustle, the new show that's on OWN. I like the show a lot. If you guys were watching earlier, I did an interview with two of the ladies from the show. I look forward to interviewing some of the other ladies from the show as well. But tonight we are here for Grace and Gossip. Trust me, you want to check in later because I got a lot of stuff to say on my King's Court review, but that's not what's happening right now. Right now, we're just talking about a little Grace and Gossip, which is, what has been going on in pop culture, what is happening in trending topics. And we do that, with a little sophistication as we sip a little tea. So there's a lot going on in social media as always. I want to go back to a story that we talked about a lot here. I think a couple of weeks we definitely focused on the Shannon Sharpe story. So if you guys have not heard, Shannon Sharpe is now ESPN has officially let him go, and he is now just doing the podcast that he does on his own, and also the one with Ocho Cinco. So we learned that ESPN fired him. He had an issue with the fact that they could not wait until his brother Sterling was inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame. He felt like they should have waited because it took away from his brother's shine. But unfortunately, Shannon should understand that when you are a celebrity, that's just part of it. And his brother, what he did affected his brother. Of course, he was going to be there to support him. What he did affected his brother. They have the same last name. They both were NFL players. They both are part of the NFL Hall of Fame. And I think that's just a part of what you sign up for when you're in the public eye. Definitely. And honestly, if Shannon wanted to, take the heat off of his brother, he could have done something earlier to make the situation a lot less, to go away a lot faster. But he tried to be quiet about it, and I guess, settled the case with the young lady. Now, the funny thing is, everybody was speculating, like, what happened, how they settled the case. Well, it's obvious how they settled the case, because the young lady got online and said that she was now retiring from OnlyFans. And so it's obvious that whatever the settlement was, it was big enough for her to no longer have to work because that was her source of income, was OnlyFans. So we don't know what the number was. Like, people are like, oh, it couldn't have been what she was asking for. But you don't know that. It could have been exactly what she was asking for. It could have been more. All we do know is that it was enough to make her stop. And I agree. Crescent City QT says Shannon drew the connection when he mentioned his brother's induction. Absolutely. Like, first of all, ESPN does not owe your brother's induction anything. You do, right? And when you have the family name and you are involved in scandal, that is unfortunately, a part of that. He tried to make himself into a victim, and I just thought that was unnecessary and just kind of silly. I thought Shannon could have really done something in advance, because he knew that his brother was being inducted into the Hall of Fame. He just thought that that ESPN was going to listen to that, and they don't owe him that. They do not owe him that. So let me see here. So it was revealed on July 30th that ESPN has opted to axe the beleaguered host Shannon Sharpe just 2 weeks after he reached a settlement agreement with his former partner. The anonymous woman, who was actually not anonymous, we know her name, launched a $50 million lawsuit against Sharpe in April over claims that he raped her multiple times during their rocky consensual relationship, which lasted for over 2 years. Now, anyway, the girl got her coins. It is very strange to hear that someone is raped repeatedly over a 2-year relationship where they're not held hostage. But I do think that he, needed to be held liable because just the nature of the relationship was inappropriate, and that's exactly why people do things like that. So if you are stupid enough to get caught up, and not only that, you are participating in behavior that is offensive, then nobody is feeling sorry for you. Shannon took a leave of absence from ESPN while the matter was handled, only for the network to decide not to bring him back as an on-air host in the wake of the controversy. Honestly, like, how would he have come back to ESPN and it not have been a distraction from what was going on, with sports? Like, first of all, it would have been a huge distraction. There would have been a lot of people that were interviewing with ESPN that might not have appreciated the fact that he was there. Because while we don't know the nature of what happened behind closed doors with them, there's a lot that we do know that was exposed in those texts. And there's the information in those texts. There was a lot of things that were, definitely suggested that it was some behavior that was inappropriate. I don't know if it would qualify as RAPE, but it was definitely inappropriate behavior. Tammy says, my only thing is that they would have waited if it were Peyton or Eli Manning. I don't know that we know that. Do we know that for sure? We don't know. I don't think that we know that. I think that ESPN is a huge brand. They're owned by Disney, and I think they were focused on what is best for them. I don't think this is my problem with stuff like that. And Tammy, I welcome us to have open discussion and conversation here on this channel. But I think that we are quick to say that something would not be done if the person was not African American or not a person of color. But the reality is, unless you know that exact example, we don't know, right? We do not know. So if there was a huge scandal, including one of the Manning brothers, we don't know that that they would have waited. We don't know that. We can speculate, but we just don't have proof. And I also don't like the fact that we do things like, when you're wrong, right? So if you are wrong, and Shannon being a part of a huge network like ESPN, that, like I mentioned, is owned by Disney, you cannot do things and then get upset. And when you're wrong, when you are blatantly in the wrong, and then say, well, because I'm Black, you're treating me bad. No, you did something wrong. Like, you are getting treated this way because you have embarrassed the network that you're a part of. That is in that, and skin color comes second to that, if not third or fourth down the line. You have done something to embarrass the network, which could potentially take money away from the network if they don't handle it, right? And so that has nothing to do with skin color. That has everything to do with you doing something that was outside of what the contractual obligations are with that position. When you are a host or a sportscaster, you are in the public eye. And so you just have to carry yourself with a little bit more responsibility. You have to have a little bit more responsibility about your actions, specifically when you are interacting with a 19-year-old OnlyFans model, right? So I just don't buy that. I think that's a very cheap way out that people like to take whenever they do something and they're guilty. Then it's like, oh, I want the same punishment as someone else. In a perfect world, should we all get the same punishment? Absolutely. But if there's nothing to compare it to, then what are we talking about? We're just speculating that we don't think that a white person would be held to the same standard. And really, that was a coincidence, right? The fact that this happened while his brother was being, during his brother's induction, that's happenstance. ESPN did not create that coincidence. Shannon Sharpe did. Tammy, should I say that because they didn't report the wrongdoing of Ben Roethlisberger? I have to look into that, but it's still, unless it's the exact same situation, those text messages, I'm gonna tell you guys, as a public relations professional, the problem was those text messages. Like, it's one thing if you can say that, there was something happening and there was an inappropriate relationship. That's one thing. But when there are and those text messages were in extremely poor taste, they were, to me, it would make anybody feel, they were uncomfortable. They were race triggering. I don't think that it was necessarily about his race. I feel like it was the nature of the infraction that caused ESPN to make that decision. And I feel like the fact that they waited that long meant they wanted to do their due diligence, because really I felt like he should have been let go immediately. But that probably would have caused a bigger, more issue, because, they had to make sure that they covered their back. And you can't expect, I would just say, if I owned a network, say Christal had a Christal's version of a OWN, right? Where I own the network, CJ Network, right? And someone has text messages, you're right, and leaked phone calls. Like the phone calls, I forgot about that. That sounded, with him talking about she wanted to be choked. No. I would, no, you have to go away, because even if I like you, even if I don't believe that you necessarily did anything wrong, that's not the point. What the point is your actions, and the fact that is, it is an extremely poor taste that is going to affect our business. And you got to remember, these are businesses. These are businesses. This is money. This is big money. And you cannot affect what is going on with the money, or you got to go. So Shannon is going to be fine, though, because Shannon still has this very popular podcast. I personally don't think it's as popular as it was when Cat Williams did that initial interview, which was at the beginning of 2024. It has not quite been the same. He's interviewed a lot of big people, but I think a lot of other celebrities felt uncomfortable with those text messages and those voice messages. And then when you looked at the fact that they pulled up so many clips of Shannon talking with young men about how he liked young women, it just didn't look good. It was an interview where he was talking with Lil Yachty about, and Lil Yachty was like, you and I like the same girls, and he was like, yeah. It just did that. The one with Monique, it just didn't look good. It just did not look good. It still does not look good. And the fact that you settled, it just didn't. It's just not good. And he had to settle, because those text messages and those text messages and those phone voice messages were proof that is something that happened that wasn't right. So anyway, I'm sorry that might have clouded his brother's induction, but I really don't think it did. I really think that he was the problem. And I also think that he was trying to cry. I think he was just, upset because he doesn't like the fact that they let him go. But I think for sports journalists, and I wish I had a sports journalist on, I should have asked my friend Jamal, but if there's sports journalists on, I think that they are able to report on Sterling being inducted into the NFL Hall of Fame without talking about Shannon. Now, is there going to be an obvious connection with pop culture? Absolutely. But I don't think that has to do with actual sports journalism. And if he did have that much of a problem, that shouldn't happen. Before the lawsuit with the young lady, you remember the accidental going live on Instagram that happened? Him going live, in a sex act. He didn't need to be on ESPN. He didn't need to be on ESPN. Him accidentally going live and then, saying that his account was hacked. All of that was told. It just was not. It was not right. All of that was not right. So he definitely needed to go. And I just wanted to close up on that, because I don't know how much, we don't know. The lawsuit, the girl ended up getting between 20 and 50 million, if not more, right? And he lost his job, but he has this podcast. He also has the one that he does with Ocho Cinco. So Tammy said he has another lawsuit against his podcast with Ocho Cinco, with Chad Johnson, who's Ocho Cinco. Jesus, I don't know. I mean, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I just feel like after the lawsuit, there was so much incriminating evidence that came out between him talking to that girl and those text messages, even like all the interviews he had done mentioning that he really likes young girls. It's just not a good look. And I think anyone with access to sponsors would definitely not have agreed with keeping him on board. So, so sorry for you, sir. We're moving on. We're going to stay in sports. Yes, he did. He lost almost all the sponsors for the other podcast. So you got to realize his podcast had sponsors, right? But ESPN has major commercial, huge. That's huge. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. If he lost his own sponsors, I think T-Mobile and a few others bailed out, immediately, because nobody wants to be pulled into that. I wouldn't, again, if it was Christal, no. No, I don't want to be connected to that. It has nothing to do with me liking you. It has nothing to do with me feeling like you were. I don't feel like he was a victim, but I'm saying it has nothing to do with that. All it is no, I don't want my business connected with that energy at all. Don't want it. So yeah, that's that. Moving on to another sports hero, you guys. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Deion and Karreuche. Now, that's a horrible picture, and I'm sorry I had to use that, but that's the one that I had. Okay. That is a horrible picture of Deion. I don't like it at all. I don't know if the bib is too wide. What is that? But unless you've been hiding under a rock, you heard last week, sports icon Deion Sanders came out and acknowledged that he had been suffering with bladder cancer a while ago. He came out and shared it when he was over it, which I understand. If you're going through something and it's painful, it's really hard to address it until you are past the pain. I can definitely personally relate to that. But he came and said he had overcome it. Anytime a person has bladder cancer, even him overcoming it, there's going to be some, there's going to be some repercussions to that. I personally was really happy to hear that he was okay, because I like Deion Sanders very much. Deion Sanders is extremely motivational. I mean, if you follow his page, which I do, you hear a lot of motivational things that you can pull from, even if you're not in sports. I'm not playing sports. Well, as you see here, I do ride, but horses. This is a sweatshirt I had done of me and Zuri, but my horse theory, in case you don't watch the channel, I'm like, who is Zuri? But yeah, he's just he's a great source for motivation. Now, I don't know him personally. I have worked for him in the past. I did some work for his charity, his foundation, and I really, really appreciated the opportunity to work with him. He was great. He was great to me. He was great to everyone that worked there. He was a true, what you see on TV was what I saw, right? I really enjoyed watching his interaction with the guys. I really did. What I will say about this is, of course, the blogs went crazy with the confirmation that he and Karrueche were dating. Now, we heard this a while ago. We heard this. This was not the first time that we heard this. We heard that he was dealing with Karrueche a while ago, and I believed it because I saw them together, and I'm like, of course. To me, it makes perfect sense, because she will forever and always be known as Chris Brown's ex. Even if she does stay in this relationship with Deion, I think she's still going to be known as Chris Brown's ex, because that's how we met her. And the fact that Chris Brown was so in love with her, I mean, just so openly in love with her. She dated him right around the time of the debacle with he and Rihanna. And I think for quite a while, he was dating both of them. And so he had a hard time with their breakup. I guess he had a hard time with their breakup. And it came after, first they were one of them couples that were breaking up, get back together, breaking up, get back together. Finally, they break up. And then he publicly, is still in love with her and has a very hard time with the breakup. She finally disconnects and moves on. I don't know exactly but when it comes to love, we all make mistakes, right? So she was with Offset. Was it Offset or Quavo? She was, I think, Quavo. That's who Chris Brown has the issue with. She was with Quavo, and then she dated an athlete, and now she is with Deion Sanders. So for me, I was like, well, of course, this is a huge upgrade. I mean, if you're going to be known as Chris Brown's ex-girlfriend, you got to find a guy that can eclipse Chris Brown. Yes, Victor Cruz. She dated Victor Cruz, who still, Chris Brown is going to eclipse both Quavo and Victor Cruz, right? But Deion Sanders may give Chris Brown a run for his money. So I feel like, she got with a guy, because I think you're always trying to upgrade whenever you, especially when you're that age. She's 36 years old. She's trying to find, the next best thing, right? And so that's definitely it. He's older, he's more experienced. He's been a celebrity since before she was born. Exactly. Chris, who with Deion said, that may be a bit too far, Tammy. But yeah, that's definitely a bigger catch for her. And I don't know where else she was going to go, because Chris Brown he has so much respect and admiration. I don't really know who else she could have dated that would have been where she would have felt like she got a better situation. I think people were kind of constantly be like, girl, you should stay with Chris Brown. And I'm not saying that she should have, because I don't think that she should have. Obviously they had a toxic relationship. And if she's happy she's gone, I'm happy she's gone. It is what it is. But I do think that the reputation, her reputation was always going to be tied to Chris, and people were always going to compare him. So having someone like Deion Sanders that is more accomplished and, on a bigger scale, even than Chris Brown. I mean, he's the coach of a college team. He is one of the few sports icons. Like, he's like that dude. I can't think of any athlete that is more. I mean, he's prime time. He's prime time. So I understand that with him and her. I mean, she's obviously his type. She's obviously his type. I mean, before this, we knew that he was dating Tracy Edmonds, who is more age appropriate. I also know his ex-wife Pilar was more age appropriate, but all older men like younger women. That's just part of life. That's part of it. That's just what it happens, especially old men with money. He's around all the college girls at the university. He probably wants something that he feels like, makes him fit in. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised on either side. I also think with her being, yes, he is 60, I think 59 or 60, and she's 36, but she's 36. So it's not like she's in her early 20s. Like, that's where I would have an issue. Like, she is not, if she was 21, I'd be like, dude, like, you dating someone that's younger than your child. But she's 36. Like, she's a grown woman. Yeah, we can see what it is. We know why she's there, but we also know why he's there. I mean, he has a type. He wants a certain look, and she has that look. It is what it is. We can't, I don't see why people got so mad about that. Now, I do want to say this. This was a little bit of the juicy part, y'all. So I found out that Karrueche has starred on several shows that his ex Tracy Edmonds did. And there's some pictures I saw that were circulating online through Claudia Jordan and different people that Nosy Nurse said Deion can't be outside like Chris. Yeah, it's not going to be quite the same. Like, you definitely, now don't get it twisted. Don't underestimate Deion, because a man is still a man is still a man. But yeah, it ain't going to be like Chris, child, girl, you're going to have to share him. In the words of Cash Doll, you're going to have to share him. But Deion, maybe a little slow down, especially with the illnesses and toes, that just probably a little slow down. No disrespect. But she's 36. Now, she was in a couple of shows, movies that his ex Tracy Edmonds produced. So they knew each other. So there's a picture of them. Stop it. Hey, no ma'am. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. That is not grace. That is not grace with that gossip. You saying that he can't even stand 10 toes down is not grace with this gossip. Okay. We want to keep our gossip filled with grace. But that was funny. But no. So if she and Tracy were friends, that's where things start to get a little sticky. So allegedly, Tracy asked her if she was dating Deion when they saw each other at Niecy Nash's birthday party. You remember Niecy Nash at this birthday party a few months ago? Actually, it's quite a few months ago that went viral. And it was like cowboy theme, of course. Everything is a cowboy theme now. And allegedly, the two of them were there, and Tracy asked Karrueche if she was dating Deion, and Karrueche said no. Now, and people are saying they know that for a fact that she told her no. Now, I guess it just depends on how close they were, right? Obviously, there's an age gap. Tracy has been in the industry for years, in television and movie industry for years, doing her thing. And allegedly, Roxy Diaz is who introduced them. Roxy, do you ever know that Roxy dates Joe, the singer? I did not know that until recently. That's interesting, right? Another older man with a younger woman, but she's a younger woman, but she's a woman, right? She's a woman. Like, I don't have a problem with people that are over 25. That's, it is what it is. Now, not my daughter. One of these old men is not going to date my daughter, but if they want to do that, I mean, as long as they're good, like the frontal lobe is closed at 35, 36, the frontal lobe has been closed for some years. You make your own decision. You want to be with an older gentleman that's going to pay your bills. I mean, that's what most women want anyway, is to have their bills paid. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at it. And I think that it's perfectly fine. If she wants to be a hospice wife, that's good. That's on her. But I mean, the check could make it worth it. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. She was crying in the wedding room. That's what women do when they're trying to get what they want to get. And I think both of them, fair exchange is not robbery. I think both of them are there for a reason. And she has the look and he has the money. And it ain't none of our business. As long as it's not inappropriate, there's no Shannon Sharpe like text messages and stuff. It's fine. The last thing, I was not slamming cougars. I was just telling cougars what it is. We're gonna get into we'll talk more about that next week. I gotta stay focused so we can get through this, and then we can get eventually at 10 o'clock. We gotta come back for King's Court. But the one thing I will say, the last thing I'll say about Deion and Karrueche is that Chris Brown can have and has had and will continue to have any woman he wants. He's so many women, right? He's headed to Atlanta, I think later this month. People are planning now. I mean, he just has that on chokehold right now. But Chris, when he saw the video of Karrueche crying over Deion, he put up he put something up in his stories that said little shit still pisses him off, but he's going to try to stay focused. So he's still in love with Karrueche. We have noticed, those of us that watch him or have been fans, that he does continue to date people that look a lot like Karrueche. Obviously, she left an impression that cannot be messed with. So hey, Chris Brown, I mean, but I respect that, because when he loves hard. It may be a toxic love. It may be, I don't know what it is, but that just, again, that should show us as women, when a man, he does date non-Black women, and so Deion likes swirling women as well, like a lot of men do. And that it is what it is. We just have to give our love where our love is received and valued, right? And I do think that he has been diagnosed and publicly diagnosed as having some issues, but regardless, that doesn't matter. He's amazing on stage. That doesn't matter for us because we're not dealing with him. But the fact that he still said about Karrueche like that lets you know that all the women that he's had, it doesn't even matter, because he's still pissed over seeing Karrueche years later with Deion Sanders. So women, we all have to know when a man is for us, he will show us. When it's easy for him to let you go, or he just isn't really, showing you, that man ain't really into you. Because when a man is really into you, you will know. and it will not be easy for him to just let go. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be like Chris Brown with the slightly toxic stuff, but if someone can dismiss you and throw you away, they probably didn't want you in the first place. And you have to know that. You have to know that real love and real commitment, it does not go away, right? And you will know what it feels like. And so I think whenever we see men acting in certain ways, it just gives us a blueprint to understand that if we're not receiving that type of love and care, then it probably isn't for you, right? Yeah. So Karrueche and Deion Sanders, I'm not mad at it. Am I really interested in it? No. But I don't think it's necessarily wrong. I mean, I don't think it's wrong at all. I don't think he's doing anything wrong. I think he's going where he wants to be, and someone wants him. And, I think he should continue, and so should she, until they know. So moving on. All right. Now, child, I was not going to talk about this. Basketball wives, Jackie Christie and her daughter Chantal, they have gone viral with the most dysfunctional mother-daughter relationship in reality television history. I think that it's safe to say this is the most toxic relationship in reality TV history. And yes, you said they favor. Oh wow, hey there said, oh wow, they favor each other. Of course they favor, because they're mother and daughter, and also they sound just alike. Like I decided to talk about this tonight because I listened to Chantal's interview with Carlos King. Shout out to Carlos King. He does great interviews. I love the way he makes people feel comfortable. He tells them he gives you all the fluffy and the flowery, and then he'll ask you the real questions, which I love. So he told Chantal that she was beautiful, she was stunning, she was striking. She loved all that. And then he said that he could actually relate to her because her relationship with her mother, because of with his father. And then he also held her accountable to some of the things that the rest of us were thinking. Number one, Chantal said that she shared a story of her growing up that was very much her experience, right? Because and the thing about people's experience, you cannot say that they have not experienced something because it's their experience. You can never say that didn't happen to you, because we don't know, we weren't there. And then also we all interpret pain differently. So where something could happen to one person and they may not think of it as, detrimental, someone else could experience the exact same thing and they could think of it as life-threatening. So I don't want to diminish anything that she said, but what I do say is I recognized it as being very much from a child's perspective. So for instance, what I mean is she said, he asked her why, she said she had this horrible upbringing to where she actually said that she was called a poor little rich girl. I mean, that's a catchy title, but I don't know what that means. But she said that she would find ways to work and she wanted to work. Well, those of us that grew up, with from humble beginnings, we know that working because you want to work is a privilege in itself. Working because you need school clothes, that's working, that's hustling. But when you are working because you want to prove that you can do something, but you have no needs and no desires at home, they're all taken care of. Those are two very different things. Not taking away anything from the fact that she was working, but I'm just saying, to say that you were a poor little rich girl because you got a job, that's not the same. These girls that have parents that don't have it are in an environment where they are struggling and they have to work. Having to work and wanting to work, two very different things. So she said that, her dad was gone all the time because he was, obviously an NBA franchise player. And she said that her mother chose to go with her dad. She did acknowledge that now, since she's with someone who's in the NBA, she understands and, wants to understand why her mom might have always wanted to be with her dad, right? Because the NBA, there's a lot of groupies. And we do know one thing about Jackie Christie is she puts her husband first. And according to Chantal or Shanny, she put her husband before her kids, far before her kids, not just like, in priority, but as far as like, she was not really concerned about parenting. She was concerned about being front row every time, every game, always with her husband, right? Um, that could be that, you can interpret that different ways. She also said that her grandmother, who was her mother's mother, was there with them. So I did not do this, but I do know some people who have thought that if their mother is with their children, that's the equivalent of them being there. Like that's their children are taken care of. So I don't know that people that leave their child with their mom are looking at it as if the child is being neglected. That's kind of like, you're thinking that the child is fine, right? I did not do that. I did not leave my kids with my mom. I had my kids early, so the option was there. A lot of people thought, well, go leave your kids with your mom while you finish school. No, I didn't want to do that. But I do know a lot of people that did, and I don't think that they felt like they were abandoning their child. So her interpretation of that, when you have your grandmother there, could be different. And yes, Nola, I agree. They wanted mom, but mom, there are a lot of women that think that if they leave the child with the grandmother, that's the next best thing, or even better sometimes, because that person has experience and they believe that is enough. But we do know that children always want their mother, and that's issues later. But I don't think that that's like her necessarily being a bad parent. It might not have been what I would do, but for the daughter to see it as her being neglected and abandoned, that's part of the risk you take when you do that, right? So Jackie kind of has to eat that. But I also think that, when Carlos asked her why did she not hold it against her dad, that they both were gone. They both weren't there. He was working. The mom was with him. She didn't hold any of that against the dad. And she said that because her father always is willing to apologize and takes accountability. So I would just like to say that a lot of parents, especially from another generation, my generation, or maybe even a little lower, a little younger, especially the older generation, like parents didn't really like apologize to children. Like that's not something that is done really frequently. So I don't know about that being what made him a great dad. That's her interpretation. But she's like, he was willing to apologize even if he didn't understand what he did wrong. Well, that could have just meant that he didn't want no trouble, and those are daughters. And usually dads are wrapped around daughters' fingers, and they're gonna say whatever's gonna make the daughter happy. But that doesn't mean that the mom was wrong because she didn't apologize. That generation is not one that is believing that children need apologies from parents. Like, I was gone, you were taken care of, there was a roof over your head. Why am I apologizing to you? You know what I mean? So I did see that an explanation, maybe, but usually it's because I said what I said. Like when I was growing up, it was like, because I said so. That's it. Like you didn't get, and we can't say that was toxic, because that was just how things were. Because I said so was understood and accepted, right? This generation of, well, you need to explain to me, you need to apologize, that's all very different than how things were, right? So I just think that in listening to that, I saw that maybe she feels like she's entitled to something that a lot of people would not get from a mother. And then, no, we're not in the same generation, but I'm just saying, I understand why, because her generation is even less likely to apologize. Like, now I have apologized to my children for things that I did that I may not have understood I was doing. But again, I'm not talking about me. I'm trying to give her grace. And saying that that's not something that's always done. But also my child would never, ever talk to me like Chantal did to Jackie. First of all, she doesn't call her mom. She calls her Jackie. That's wild. And then to me, that's wild. And then she just is very disrespectful, and she does not seem to appreciate anything that her mom did. Now, I'm definitely not letting Jackie off the hook, because Jackie is a hot mess. And I say that with as much grace as possible. Jackie is a hot mess. And I think that the biggest thing in that situation is Jackie, a lot of times people tell their kids, do as I say, not as I do. But that's not what children do. Children do as you do. They watch you, and they emulate. And so I feel like Jackie has this attitude. I mean, because she's just the same as her mom. I was watching her talk to Carlos, and I was like, this feels like a younger, brighter, more sassy version of Jackie, right? It just feels the same. They sound alike, they act alike, their energy is alike. And then because you guys were, if you watch Basketball Wives, you know Jackie will do something messed up and then she will apologize. She will take it back. She will just, and then she'll want to move on. And Chantal, she was like, well, you know, I shouldn't have said this about my mom, and I should not have. Basically, she said that she should, you know, I watched the clip. She's sitting down, Jackie's sitting down. They start arguing. Chantal is ready to argue. She wants to argue. She has a lot of hurt with her mom. You could tell there's a lot of pain there. Now, if all the pain is warranted, we don't know, but there's a lot of pain there. So that she wants to fight. And she's, oh, you want this? You want? She's amped up, and she leaves, and then she comes back, and she actually is the one that makes physical contact first, and I think Jackie responds, and she doesn't actually hit her, but Chantal does push her, you know, trying to like go. It's sad and it's disgusting, and like I said, it's the most toxic mother-daughter relationship ever. I wish they never were on this show, because we do not need more negative examples of Black women doing things that are outside of the bounds of like, this is just disgusting. It's very disgusting. I do not know if they needed to. I actually, you know what, guys? I want everybody to heal. I want everyone to love. But the way that Jackie and her daughter act towards each other, I just think they need to be apart. They need to be apart, because the daughter is so angry and Jackie is so entrenched in her delusion that I don't know if there's a way for them to find a happy place. I'm like, you know, you can never say never. You can never say never, and you always have to hold out hope for people. But after that, it was so crazy. And they literally took the entire season of Basketball Wives all about them at this point. They have superseded the drama with Evelyn and Brittany. That I just yeah, all of that is overshadowed by mother and daughter having a physical fight, right? Shameful, unnecessary. And even when she went on Carlos's show, she said that she shouldn't have done that, but she still has so much anger and hate for Jackie that she doesn't understand how she really was out of line. Like, I don't think there's ever a reason to curse and hit your parent. There's just never a reason for that. If your mom was not the best growing up, and she did acknowledge that Jackie wanted her on the show, right? I can't imagine Jackie wanting her on the show for this. I think that she really thought, oh, it's going to be cool. I'm going to have my daughter on, because they have been through other drama. But what I say is that Chantal acts like Jackie. And the reason that Jackie gets a pass is because she's older, right? She's older than the other women. Because I think if she was younger, somebody would have whooped her behind by now, because she does do some and say some crazy stuff. But because she's older, she gets a pass, and people don't really charge her with it like that. But Chantal is younger, and that attitude, girl, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You watched your mom, and all the things that you disliked about her, unfortunately, you absorbed. And her energy, to me, is just like a young Jackie's. It's sad. I don't like it. I didn't like it at all. She said that growing up, her mother instilled fear in her. And I was like, yeah, that happened to a lot of people growing up. Like, a lot of parents are like, that's what happened. Like, you got out of line, you got a spanking, right? And you did have a healthy amount of fear. Let me tell you something. My mom backhanded me one time. She thought I was being smart. I still believe to this day I was not being smart. And but she felt like I was. And she backhanded me. And that was the last time, because guess what? even though I don't think I was really being smart that time, whatever it was, I figured out not to do it again. And that's what it was. But she said now she's not afraid she'll hit her mom back. Like, that is crazy. That is madness. And that is not, that shows a very toxic mindset on both sides, the mother and the daughter. To Jackie's point, I don't think Jackie was trying to fight with her daughter. I mean, physically fight. But I think Jackie also has some very strong instincts that will not let her back down. Chantal alluded to the fact that her dad, Doug Christie, was leaving Jackie. I would have to see that in paper before I would believe it, because if he was going to leave Jackie, I would just assume he would have done it a long time ago. But he has not. And then she said she shouldn't have said that. But girl, you did. You set it off. You put it out there already. So, I mean, you got a lot. It was a lot of things that she was saying she shouldn't have done. Said she shouldn't have pushed her mom. What she should have done is carried her behind out that door instead of coming back. But, and then she talked about, because she couldn't, her basic, because she kept saying Jackie was playing in her face and all this stuff. Hey, D-Glove. But the reality is, the thing that you said your mom did was she was not there for you. And that is horrible. She said that her grandmother was there when she started her menstrual cycle, all the things that happen when you're young, those milestones of childhood. And, I've seen that happen with children. If a parent is not there, a lot of times the child is angry at the parent and saves up the anger to throw in their face later. But I think she did also say that she understands at this point why, her mom did some of the things that she did. I mean, there are probably a lot of women. I know one right now, which I'm not going to name names because that would be wrong. But I do know celebrities that, prioritize, or women that are married to celebrities that prioritize chasing that celebrity around more than taking care of their children. That happens a lot. Is it right? No. And will the children probably call them out on it later? Probably. But I don't know that it gives you the right to show up and be disrespectful the way Chantal was. I could be of the old school, and I'm perfectly okay with that. But I don't believe there's ever a time that you talk that you are disrespectful to your parent. And I think that you can demand that they respect you as an adult, right? But as far as like like, I'm not afraid, I'm physically going to fight her, like that you need some therapy, some medicine, something, because that's not normal. At the very least, you had a roof over your head. You are well provided for now. You're married to a man that has the means, and you have children of your own. Why are you still mad? I'm not saying that hurt doesn't last long, because we know that, especially childhood pain. But what I am saying is that Chantal has to take some accountability for the fact that she started that fight, and she kind of came on with the energy that she was going to, I guess she said that her mom was her first bully. Like, let me say something. My mom, like I said, she backhanded me that time. I was at the door. I said something. She felt like it was slick. Pop. I would not say that she was bullying me. I mean, that's just, people used to spank. And I mean, I don't think that's bullying. And again, it could be a younger generation, because I think she's like 32. They just feel like physical punishment is abuse. I know there's a lot of people that agree with that, but no. Tammy says, and she spoke of violating Jackie before she went to her room. Yeah, she wanted to fight. Like, she wanted to. It's like she's been angry and she wanted to get back at her mom. Well, Jackie, because she don't even see her as her mom. Hey, you there says Jackie is known for bullying the other daughter. I don't know about that. I did think it was interesting that the other daughter felt unseen because she's by a different dad. just a lot of pain. And that's sad, man. You don't, that's sad. Honestly, I think that the producers for Basketball Wives should not have shown that. I know it made for great TV. I'm sure the ratings were high, but there should have been some decorum there. That's taking things too far. And it not even low key. Nola says low key. Jackie helped her get the bag by bringing her on. It's not even low key. She did, and she said she doesn't need the bag because her husband makes so much money and they're well taken care of. And I'm sure. I mean, her mama don't need the bag, but they like being on TV. She said that she came on. She still chose to come on the show, right? So you chose to come on the show, and the way that you acted, you now she's saying, well, I shouldn't have done that. Why I should have done this, I shouldn't have done that. It was all like with a vendetta, and it just was really bad. It was bad. It was bad on both sides. And like I said, I'm not letting Jackie off the hook. Jackie's behavior and example created this. So what you put in, you will always get out. But this, and it's disgusting. Jackie's behavior created this, and she can say all that she wants to say, but I know when she lays down at night, she probably has a lot of regrets about how she raised her children. And that's the thing. Those of you that have little children, or those of you that have not had children yet, the time that you raise your children goes really fast. It goes by so fast. And trust me, even, I have regrets, and I feel like I did the best I could. I feel like my kids and I have a great relationship, but there are things I wish I could have done better, right? That's just a human nature. But what I can guarantee you is whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. And so, we make decisions sometimes based on where we are at that time. And there is no manual for parenting. There is no manual. Chantel has an aneurysm with 7 months postpartum and started going to reality show or talks about. Yeah, not the best idea, not the best decision. She was postpartum, but still, I just feel like all of those things that you named, it still is no excuse for what we saw. That is years of deep-rooted resentment and pain. And I think sometimes people are resenting something that they have no idea what it feels like. I mean, her children are young. She hasn't gotten to the stage where she would have a preteen, a tween, a preteen, and a teenager. She'll probably learn a little bit, with that, because I think I've heard a lot of kids say what their parents didn't do or what their parents should have done, but they have no idea what it feels like being a parent. And no matter what age you become a parent, it's not easy. It's not easy. And maybe Jackie, I mean, there's some people that are not necessarily nurturing or mothering by nature. And, if you're not, it's probably a good idea not to have children, because there are a lot of people like that. And then when their kids grow up, their kids are angry and resentful and hurt, and they don't understand where all that came from. So I think both sides have to take accountability, because even if you did have a horrible upbringing, at some point, the responsibility is yours to fix yourself. And if you made mistakes with your child, and you see things in them that you don't like, I mean, sometimes you have to look in the mirror and figure out, where did that come from? You know what I mean? Like, where did they see this behavior modeled, and why is it okay for them to do that? The fact that both of her daughters, she does not have a healthy relationship with, is telling. And I think that a lot of people give Jackie grace because of her relationship with her husband. We don't really understand the dynamic there, so we can't say what that is. But I know that if both parents are missing, and the dad, I'm so sorry, the dad is getting no blame, and all the blame is going on the mom, well, that could be a little bias. That could be a little bias. I'm not saying that Jackie is Doug, but I am saying when people are married, they are in agreement. And if you were in agreement with, I mean, Doug saw Jackie. He knew Jackie was there with him and not with them kids. So I don't see how she could only blame her mom. Hey, you there says, weren't they divorcing and not anymore? I don't know. We don't know what happened. All I know is that Chantal allegedly put it out there that he was leaving her mom, almost like she wanted her dad to leave her mom, which I'm sure she did. She really does not like her mom. So, but I didn't believe that because they've been together this long. Whatever Jackie does, he's cool with it because they've been together so long. You know, if he wanted a woman that was more of a mother, then he would have found one. People get what they want. If he wanted a woman that was going to be at home with the kids while he was playing basketball, then he would have left Jackie and found a woman that did that. But he was cool with it. So that's what he wanted. So you can't say that it was all Jackie and not him. For all we know, he could have been saying that that could have been something that she understood. There's a lot of wives that, they don't go to the games and their husband flies somebody else in. Now, I know Chantal would probably want to hear Jackie say, well, I'd rather stay home with my kids. And if my man is going to cheat on me, it's okay. But that sounds good. But then if they got divorced, then her upbringing would have been a lot different. You know what I mean? It'd have been a lot different if Jackie didn't go to the games and a groupie had slid in there and their marriage had fallen apart. Then you wouldn't have been able to call yourself a poor little rich girl. You just been a poor little girl. And trust me, that's two very different things. Two very different things. So last thing I'm going to say on this is I feel like the producers really just proved how disgusting that show is. I had done some articles earlier that said Basketball Wives was outdated, and I stand by that. Nobody really cares about that now because there was a certain lifestyle that wives of athletes had access to. And now social media influencers have access to that same lifestyle. And it's not, back then, usually an athlete would have one woman and they would have a lot of groupies or a lot of chicks on the side. But now it's kind of all jumbled. It's a jumbled mass. And the wife is not as revered as it used to be. So I think the show is antiquated. I also think that the fact that they went that far on VH1, I think the only other mother-daughter relationship that I've seen that's been that toxic was Black China and Tokyo Tony. And that was on the Zeus network. So I just think that production company really dropped the ball and they really, I just think that was in poor taste and I wish it wouldn't have been shown. But hey, who am I? I'm just here on YouTube, right? Who am I? Anyway, that has been Grace and Gossip for today, Monday, August 4th. I hope everybody is off to a great week. Stay tuned. If you watch this channel at 10 o'clock, I'm coming back with my review for King's Court. And trust me, you want to see this. You want to join in. You want to get in this chat because we got stuff to talk about. I am very passionate about this episode 4, which was called Perfect Match. Make sure that you're tuned in at 10 o'clock, which is in a few minutes, for our conversation so we can just get into this. Outside of that, Wednesday, Mo and I are back with Dating Diaries. We have a good friend that's dropping by. So you wanna be here for that too. But right now, like I said, let's focus on 10 o'clock. I'll see you guys back here. Tammy, girl, we are furious. Okay. I'll see you guys at 10 for our conversation on King's Court. All right. If you're watching the replay, let me know what you think. What do you think about Karrueche and Deion? What do you think about Shannon Sharpe and Sterling Sharpe? Do you think that ESPN was wrong to fire Shannon right before his brother's induction in the Hollywood Hall of Fame? And lastly, what did you think of Basketball Wives? Did you think that it was fair for Jackie and Chantal to be caught fighting on camera for ratings? Let me know what you guys think. All right. I'll see you at 10.